Hello, and welcome to today's episode all about posture. We're going to talk about what we should do to help improve posture. Why do we have such poor posture in the first place? That dreaded neck hump that everyone wants gone, and then how our posture can actually compromise our entire body. If we haven't met yet, my name is Dr. Celia Corbo. I'm a functional health practitioner, licensed chiropractor, and entrepreneur, and I'm here to guide you on how to live your best quality of life. As a chiropractor, I would say 9 out of 10 patients on the intake form, when I ask them what they're coming in to see me for, they put better posture. I mean, when you see someone walking on the street that's all slouched over, see someone sitting, they're all slouched over, you're like, that doesn't look very nice, does it? We always want a really nice, strong, upright posture because not only does that look good, but it also, from a body language perspective, it represents confidence. It represents, this strength that they have. They take care of their body. They're usually really healthy. When we see someone that's rounded shoulders and they're all hunched over, usually we interpret that as sad. Something's wrong. Are they healthy? What's up? So your posture tells you more about that person or about that state of that person than just how upright they are. Now, when it comes to posture, the first thing that I want to talk about is, why do we all have poor posture to begin with? That's a very general statement. I know not all of us have poor posture. So let's start from the very beginning. When you are developing in the womb, there's not a lot of space in there. I mean, it's a little tight, but with the development and the way that the body naturally starts to form, everything is done in what we call fetal position. Now, if you don't know what fetal position is, I want you to bring your knees up and curl yourself into a ball. That's fetal position. Now, when it comes to developing in utero, we are developing in fetal position. And then when we are born, we are still held and we are still growing. So we remain in that fetal position. But when we're born and when we're developing, there's actually something really interesting going on in the brain. The right hemisphere starts to develop first for about the first 2 years of life. And within that right hemisphere, we have posture. Not specifically, it's not like posture button. No, but it has to do with the way that our muscles are stimulated in order to support the upright anatomy of the human. But that's all taking place in the right brain. And that's really important. And I want you to remember that for later on. But as we're developing, the right brain is developing, posture starting to develop, and we go from being coddled to then crawling to then learning how to walk, and we have this upright posture. Now, when we are going from crawling to upright, it's really important that we also develop not just muscle tone, which inevitably we need to hold us up, but the proper curves in our spine. Yes, your spine is supposed to be curvy. If you've ever gotten your x-ray done and you see a really, really straight spine, that is not very healthy. Or if you see the curves, but they're going in the opposite direction, that's also extremely unhealthy. But in our neck specifically, this is, I would say, the most important curve. Some authors have even called it the arc of life. And this plays a huge role in our posture. You see the neck curve here. It's supposed to go towards the throat, almost like a C-shaped curve. And the reason why we need that C-shaped curve in our neck is because it's going to help hold our head up, which has a pretty important structure in there, the brain. And it's also going to help with nervous system function, communication within the body, and muscle tone. So making sure your muscles are functioning properly. Also, we have a set of really important muscles right at the bottom of our skull, connecting onto the beginning of our neck. These muscles are called the suboccipitals. You won't need to remember that, but just know that these muscles are so important, and there's actually a way that we can feel them. If you get 2 fingers and put them just at the base of your skull, right at your hairline, or where you feel kind of like a ridge of where your skull tapers off to become the neck, and then you shift your eyes left to right, you'll feel that the muscles are moving ever so slightly. And we call that suboccipital ocular reflex. Now, when your eyes are shifting on your screen, when you're looking at your computer all day at work, these little muscles are also firing. So even though you're sitting down and not moving, you're not moving. Your muscles are moving. Your stability muscles are moving. And over time, as we're sitting down and looking at our computer screens, and these muscles are continuously moving side to side, we tend to go closer to our screens like this because we're starting to fatigue those muscles, and we start to creep a little bit closer and closer and closer. And then eventually our neck starts to hurt, and we start to get this really weird neck hump. And what that neck hump is that beautiful C curve that I mentioned in our neck now starting to straighten out. And you are starting to have what we call an anterior head carriage, which is when you are like this. And we want to be like this, not like this, right? Because again, when we see someone like that, we're like, what's wrong with you? Why is your posture off? But ever so slowly, we are going into that posture because as we get closer to our screens, these muscles fatigue and we can't hold ourselves up like we used to at the beginning of the day or when we were starting our job. And then that's when we end up getting closer and closer to the screen and we start getting that neck hump. And I have so many people coming into my office telling me, I want that gone. And I'm like, okay, well, you got to just not sit at your computer for so long. And if you are sitting at your computer so long, you got to move your head and neck and you got to exercise and you got to strengthen these muscles along your back body. I want to get into stretching versus strengthening. So when it comes to stretching versus strengthening, this is the hottest debate in my office. And I have this conversation with every single person that I talk to because we are in a culture right now that is obsessed with stretching. I have no idea why. Every patient that I talk to is like, what stretches can I do for my body? No, stop stretching. You are doing the wrong thing. Stop stretching your body. You need to strengthen your body. If you really think about it, when you're sitting at your desk, you're like this. So your shoulders are hunched and your back muscles are stretching. Isn't that funny? You're naturally stretching your back muscles all day. Now, I will say that you should open up and stretch the front body because that is being pulled in and coming really tight during the day of sitting at the desk. So we need to stretch that, but we need to strengthen the back muscles. And some really basic exercises can be done. You can do some lat pull downs with a big bar. You could do some rowing technique type exercises. Back extensions are my favorite exercise. But even doing things like squats and deadlifts, I really love those exercises. Again, controversial topic. Some people don't. But when done properly, they are, oh my gosh, they're going to build your muscles and you are going to be the tallest and straightest person in that room. Like, it's incredible how effective these exercises are, but when they are done properly. And that's what I go through with my clients in my functional health program because so many people are not exercising properly. And I really want to teach people how to do that because I don't want you to hurt yourself. Like, that's the last thing we need is an injury. But regardless, back to stretching and strengthening. So everyone's obsessed with stretching, and I don't know why. I'll, I've just posted on Instagram recently 3 exercises I would never prescribe. And I'm going to go through them here in case you didn't see my Instagram post. But if you're not following me, it's dr.celiacorbo on Instagram. So go ahead and follow that account. But anyways, the 3 exercises I would never prescribe is this one, bringing your shoulder across your chest and pulling. Okay, that's doing absolutely nothing for you. And let me break it down why. Number 1, when you're stretching your arm across your body, I'm stretching the back of my body, which, to no new news, we've already been stretching that all day sitting at the desk at your computer. The second thing that's happening is when I bring my arm across, the front of my shoulder is just pinching the front of my chest. And we're actually causing what we call impingement of the shoulder capsule, which is not very fun. And those are really the two reasons why I don't like that stretch, because you're stretching out muscles that have been stretched out all day and you're causing shoulder impingement. Who wants that? The second exercise that I talk about is bringing your chin down to your chest. And I see this a lot, especially with children in gym class or even like these fitness girls on Instagram. They're like, do this stretch with me. Don't do this stretch with them. It's basically bringing your chin down and rolling it side to side. Gross. Stop doing that. I get very passionate about my stretches and exercises because we're doing that all day. We're already on our phone looking down at the phone all day. So why am I going to bring my chin down into flexion and continuously stretch that part of my neck out? Anything, I want to go into extension. I want to look up to the ceiling. I want to stretch these muscles. I want to tighten the back of my neck muscles. I don't want to look down. I've been doing that all day. Ugh. And finally, the third one, and this was like super controversial on my reel. When you bring your head to the side and then you pull. Oh my goodness. I hate that stretch. I hate it so much. You are not improving your posture. You are not loosening up muscles. Let me tell you what you're doing with this absurd stretch. Number one, what you're doing is you're stretching out one of the biggest muscles called the trapezius. The trapezius is divided into 3 different parts. And what we're stretching out is the upper part. So really, by you doing this, you're missing out on stretching 2 other parts of one of the biggest muscles of the body. So that's number one. Number 2, when I'm stretching this out and then I'm pulling, I'm actually causing a lot of what we call hypermobility or more movement in the top of my neck where the first and second bones of the spinal column start. And that's where we nod and shake our head. And I don't want more movement there because then I'm going to get hypermobility and spinal instability. We're not stretching this out. We're just creating more movement in this top region for absolutely no reason. So please, okay, always listen to your medical doctor. I have to say that as a disclaimer, but please stop doing that stretch. You are not doing your body, your neck, and your muscles any service. If anything, what you want to do instead is you want to stretch out this big, chunky muscle right in the front of your neck. It's called the SCM, sternocleidomastoid, which is the long version. You're not getting tested, don't worry. But what you want to do is you want to stretch this out. And when you stretch it out on both sides, you're going to bring your head and neck over and look up to the back corner of the room and down. And that will get a really nice stretch throughout the front of the neck. If you want, you can download these exercises on my website. I have a whole nother video and PDF where you can get those exercises. They're called exercises for life. They are my favorite exercises. I do them every single day, every single hour. Like that's how important they are. So those are the 3 stretches that I would not recommend you do and would substitute with the 3 stretches that I recommended you. You want to cross your arms in the back, open up the chest and look up. That's exercise number 1. That is verified by me. Exercise number 2 is just looking up. And then exercise number 3 is looking up and over to the back corner of the room. Those are the 3 stretches you should be doing for better posture and promoting a healthier spine in your neck specifically. Now let's go back to the brain for a second because I realized that I didn't mention something. And this has to do with how you move your muscles. So when it comes to movement, our brain facilitates that movement in an area called the prefrontal cortex, which is the front area of the brain. However, when it comes to posture, there is something called voluntary and involuntary movements. And I'm going to talk about involuntary for a second. So remember when I was talking about the brain and how we have the right side and the left side, and the right side is responsible for posture? Let's go back to that point. So your right side is responsible for posture, and it's responsible for activating these muscles that are supposed to keep you upright and stable. But we don't have to think about it. So if you recall when you were a baby, so you probably can't recall because that was probably a long time ago, but if you've ever seen a baby or a toddler, they're not thinking, "Oh, I got to keep my spine straight. Oh, I got to make sure that my glutes are engaged and my back is tight so I can run around and play." They're not thinking about that. But what is happening is the right side of their brain is thinking about keeping all of those stability muscles on so that they can have upright posture. But here's the catch. Remember when I said we develop in fetal position? Well, this is the problem with your posture and the reason why everyone is so slouched. Because naturally, when the body's not thinking about posture, we naturally go into flexion or we revert back to fetal position, which is that rounded ball posture. And that's why when you're sitting at your desk for an extremely long time, even as short as 5 minutes, but usually we're there for longer, because if you're watching this video, it's been over 5 minutes. When you're sitting at your desk for even 5 minutes or 5 hours, you're going into this flexed posture because you're not thinking about your posture. And that's why we end up in a hunched position. So you can wear all of these devices to keep your posture up. You can do all of the things that, will keep your posture up. But the number one thing you should be doing is exercising, is strengthening. We've been full circle now. Strengthen your back muscles, stretch out your front muscles, because the stronger they are, the more resilient they are to go into flexion and for you to curl up into a hunched over human while you're working at your desk. And then you get neck pain and back pain and all of these weird pains, right? So that's the interesting part about the brain with posture. We naturally go into flexion because that's the way our body naturally developed. And we have to think about going into extension. We have to think about doing these exercises to open up the body and to reverse all of the sitting and slouching that we're doing. That's just the way we're designed. We're designed to be in a hunched position involuntarily, but we don't want that. And the reason why we don't want that is because then muscles will start to lose their tone or their strength, we call it. And then we can also start to notice some physiological disturbances in the body as well. And that's one thing that not a lot of people think about. They don't think about how their posture affects the way that their body functions in an automatic way, like heart rate, digestion, respiration. We don't think about this. We just think about, oh my God, my shoulders are rounded and I look awful. But there's more to it than that. And let's dive into that right now. So when it comes to the physiology and posture, well, the physiology of how the body works and posture, it actually is very, very linked. And let me tell you why. When you're sitting and you're rounded at your desk like this and your shoulders are hunched over, what's happening, number one, to your lungs is you are decreasing lung capacity. So I'm going to show you an empty water bottle. I have props. I'm going to show you an empty water bottle for two systems of the body. The first one is your lungs. So when you're sitting and you're hunched over, see how my lungs and the capacity just got smaller as the bottle got squished? That's what's happening. So you are reducing the ability for your body to take in oxygen because your lung capacity has decreased. What ends up happening when we have decreased oxygen intake is we start to go into this increased respiration state. So you start to breathe a lot faster. And you're breathing faster and you're not panting, you're not at your desk panting, but your breathing rate does increase. Now, we want to have at least 6 breaths per minute. If you go to the literature, it's actually changed and they now state that it should be 12 to 14 breaths per minute, which is a lot. And that has changed, not for the better. I don't know why they even changed it, but the original number that you should be breathing per minute is 6 breaths per minute. And I want you to try that when we're done watching this video. put a timer on for a minute and just count how many breaths you do when you're slouched and how many you do when you're upright, and see if there's a bit of a difference. And if you're not hitting 6 and you're doing more, it's time to open up your lungs and open up your chest so you can get in more oxygen. Because what ends up happening when we start breathing really fast is we're not using our diaphragm to breathe. So the diaphragm is this dome that separates your lungs or your chest cavity from your colon or your abdominal cavity. And we want your diaphragm to straighten out and deflate and then curl up and inflate. And we want it to be this natural rhythm because it also helps to massage your back muscles and it helps to clean out your colon, aka get the poop out of your body. So when you're not using your diaphragm, what you end up using is these little muscles. We call them the accessory muscles of the neck. And then they have to lift this entire rib cage up and down, which is like, they weren't designed to do that. And then you get neck pain. And guess what? Your breathing rate has increased. So now, so has your heart rate. And when your heart rate increases, that's not very good because then that means that your blood pressure has increased as well. And when we have an increase in blood pressure, we usually have an increase in kidney function because your kidneys, if you don't know what they do, they take the blood and filter it for you. It's kind of like the plumbing system of the body. And if your kidneys are filtering a lot because there's a higher blood pressure, meaning a higher amount of blood going through the kidneys, then A, you're going to have to urinate a lot more often. And B, that's just not healthy. They don't want to be overworked. Your body doesn't want to be overworked. And then what happens when your body's overworked? You release more cortisol, which is your stress hormone. And the reason why we want cortisol, it's actually a survival hormone to help release sugar into our system so we can have the energy to do things. But if you're sitting at a desk and you're not doing anything and you're releasing all of this cortisol, I don't know about you, but that doesn't really sound like something that I want to happen. So then you have an increase in cortisol, which is going to affect your metabolism and your thyroid. And we can get pseudo hypothyroidism because there's a huge, epidemic right now about all of my clients taking Synthroid. My thyroid's not working. Is it? Or is your posture sucky? Is your cortisol through the roof? Are you not taking in enough oxygen? And did you go through some emotional traumas in your life? Did your endocrinologist ask you that? Probably not. Right? So do you see where I'm going with this? Do you see how posture can decrease lung capacity, cause neck pain because now you have to lift the rib cage up with these muscles because you're not using your diaphragm. Your heart rate increases, your blood pressure increases, renal function is increased and has to filter out a lot more blood, and you pee a lot more, and there's a lot more stress in the body, which affects your thyroid, which affects your mood, which affects your nervous system, which affects your immune function. So you're more likely to have flare-ups, right? Because your body's like, whoa, what's going on? I need to kill all of this stress, let's just call it. And then we get a flare up. And then let's talk about digestion. I would say your gut is your third brain. A lot of people say the second brain. You have your brain, you have your heart, and you have your gut. Those are the three brains of the body. So your gut is one of those three brains. And what ends up happening, we'll get our water bottle again, but when you're sitting in a scrunched posture, well, guess what? This is your digestive system. It's scrunched. And guess where all that food is going to go? It's not going to exit. You're going to get a lot of gas. You're going to get a lot of bloating, a lot of indigestion, and then you might not be able to produce enough stomach acid to break it down. So you start getting acid reflux. But when you have a nice posture, mind the bottle popping, it's nice and upright. Things can travel through the bottle. Things can travel out of your system. You can get rid of toxins. You don't have to have gas. You don't have to have indigestion or bloating. Do you see what I'm seeing? Do you see how your posture is so much more than just the way that you look? It's so much more. And it's so amazing that everyone knows that when we see someone with a bad posture, rounded shoulders, forward jutting neck, that it's not an indication of health. Yet we were able to just break it down as to why, right? Isn't that cool? So When it comes to posture, when it comes to the low back pain and the neck pain and the body pain, I really want you to try to do those 3 exercises that I recommended in the video. You can download my exercises for life. It's like $7.99 on my website. It's so inexpensive, and I can guarantee you that is the most useful PDF you will ever come across, because it will help with your spinal curves. It'll help with restoring your neck curve. Of course, go see a chiropractor in your area, because we want to get rid of those blockages within the joints that are limiting your movement just to begin with, and also to turn your brain on through the spinal adjustments. And then just knowing how we developed is so crucial to understanding the way that your body functions, right? Like when I was taking embryology and histology in school, I was like, why do I need to know this? And now I kind of regret not paying more attention, because I'm basically reteaching myself everything. Waste of time, but whatever. But what I'm trying to get at here is that your posture is so much more than the way that you look. It's how your brain functions. It's how your body responds to stress and how your body's responding internally. It's how your muscles are strong or not strong. And at the end of the day, we all know better posture equals better health. So whether you're in Toronto and you need a chiropractor, I'm right here, or you're somewhere in the world and you're looking for a practitioner, or I like to call myself a guide, a health guide to getting you towards living your best quality of life, which includes better posture through the physical pillar of health, then click the link below. Let's book a discovery call where we'll chat more about what it is that you need help with, whether it is physical, whether it is chemical, or whether it's emotional, because all 3 of these pillars of health equal a better quality of life. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I would love to chat more. Just click the link below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It means a lot to me that you guys do, and I'm really looking forward to sharing some more awesome videos with you. One day I'll get an editor, and these will be a little bit more drastic with the transitions and all that. But in the meantime, I hope you're enjoying the content, and look forward to seeing you at the next episode.